Hello again, everybody. This is Aaron Duquette with U.S. Term Limits, State Director for U.S. Term Limits here in Kentucky. And we have with us another pledge signer for the U.S. Term Limits Pledge for Congressional Term Limits. And I want to introduce you, Calen Studler. Calen, you want to speak a little bit about yourself? Say hi.
Well, my name's Calen Studler. I grew up here in Frankfort, Kentucky. I'm running for the 7th District Senate, which includes 5 counties. It's Gallatin, Owen, Woodford, Anderson, and Franklin counties. I live right here in the state swamp, is what I like to call it. So I see a variety of things, whether it be protests and all sorts of things here in the state capitol. And I'm a local realtor. Well, I'm a real estate broker. I own my own brokerage, and I'm also a certified residential appraiser. I spent 10 years working at the Toyota plant in Georgetown, so I have a blue-collar background. Spent 5 years as a restaurant manager at McDonald's. It was one of my first jobs.
As our viewers will see, Calen has signed our pledge of support for our congressional term limits resolution. This would allow that the states can come together to draft an amendment for term limits on Congress, something that we believe Congress just wouldn't do for itself. So, Calen, you want to speak a little bit to what motivated you to sign the pledge and why you support term limits on Congress?
As the old saying goes, power tends to corrupt, and absolute power corrupts absolutely. There's seniority issues, and it causes some fresh ideas not to happen just by keeping people in there for so long, and they end up becoming whatever the heads of a committee or a leader of some sort, and they have power that tends to keep out things that they don't want, that people might want. And term limits is one of them. I mean, this is a bipartisan issue. They tried passing a term limits bill just a few years ago here in the state level that, it was opposed by Democrats and Republicans in committee, including the guy I was running against in 2018. He voted against it. The argument against term limits is always usually institutional knowledge. Well, institutional knowledge got us the worst pension deficit in the nation. I think maybe we're second next to Illinois, maybe. I don't remember. We're in bad shape with our state pensions here in Kentucky, and that was caused by people who have been in there too long.
Yeah, sure. And so you look at the federal level, you have the national deficit, the national debt is just atrocious, and it keeps growing. And you're right, it's a bipartisan problem. And it doesn't matter who's the president or who's controlling Congress. It seems like we just keep spending and spending and spending, and it's money we don't have, or mortgaging our future against it, and it's not a good thing. And that bears out with the polling that's been done as well, specifically in Kentucky. It's 84% of Kentuckians want term limits on Congress. And if you look down the breakdown, it was a McLaughlin Associates poll back in 2018. It doesn't matter what party affiliation you're in. Right across the board, everyone's pretty much across the board, wants term limits on Congress, independents or even higher. And we just want to see something change here. So, everyone's got their hero in Congress, so that they wouldn't want to go away necessarily. But I think for everyone, hero probably has 3 or 4 villains that they want out too. So it's kind of a give and take, right?
Correct.
It's not a personal thing, right? Getting term limits on Congress can't happen when we say, well, we want this person out, term limited out. That's not how that works. It's a systemic issue. And so it has to be a constitutional amendment, which means it has to be, something that applies across the board. And I think most Americans kind of, see that this is a common sense thing that will make the overall nation be healthier and Congress be healthier when this applies to everybody.
Well, I'm not opposed to people that might move around to a different position. I'm really more opposed to people holding down a seat. You could be a senator. You might have a gift or a calling to be in politics. I actually don't doubt that. The man I'm trying to succeed here, I don't agree with him personally, but he's been in politics 50 some odd years. He's been governor, lieutenant governor, speaker of the House, and senator here in Kentucky. I wouldn't doubt that he has some sort of gift in politics.
Mhm.
I just don't agree with him personally. But if someone wants to get out of get term limited in one house and move over to another house, or run for governor, or those are different challenges, and I'm not opposed to that, but I am opposed to holding down a seat, because it does bottleneck and log jam, keeps fresh ideas and changes from happening. And I do believe that power does corrupt some. I mean, as you get more power, your morality might go down. So
Yeah.
that's usually how things work.
Sure. Looking at term limits, you mentioned the institutional knowledge argument, and we look at Congress and say this is I mean, factually, this is the most experienced Congress in history. There's the most years of experience, continual experience there, and look where we are. So I'm not sort of sure that the institutional knowledge thing really holds water, and it's kind of a phony argument to say that, well, if you're getting them out every 2 years, I mean, no term limits amendment's going to knock them out after one term, and that's just
Right.
that's something that we might say in frustration or something, but that's not really going to happen here.
Well,
That
actually,
multiple terms, but there's a limit, right?
yeah, that happened in I think it was Arkansas. They passed the term limits for their state legislature, and they ended up having to amend it because they did make them too short. 4 and 6 years is not enough to get an agenda done, but 25 and 30 is past your time.
Right, sure. And that's the great thing about what we're doing here in this method. It allows that the states, and their delegations can come together in order to deliberate upon that matter. So it's not that U.S. term limits has said, okay, here's a term limit. It's going to be this and this. And if you're not on board, well, you need to get on board, right? What this is allowing is, for the people that are watching here, that this initiative is going to allow that the states can come together to have that discussion and negotiate those terms. So representation from all 50 states would have a spot at the table in order to negotiate and push and pull different proposals. So we think that actually a greater good for the country will come out of that process than any organization just saying this is what it needs to be. Obviously, we'd be advocating for pretty stringent term limits just because of the nature of our organization. But we're really looking for this to be something that conversation happens, and it seems like an obvious thing. Let's allow this conversation to happen. It's something that overwhelmingly people want to see happen. And we're asking for it to happen. So why not just allow the discussion to happen? It still needs to be ratified afterwards. So if you really don't like the amendment that's proposed, really don't vote for a ratification. So that's why we appreciate, folks like yourself, because we need to get this done. Congress is not going to vote the term limit itself. It's just contrary to human nature. It's just that people don't relinquish power from their own position. You need to have checks and balances. And this is one of those checks that the states can check the federal power, the federal Congress. And so we need folks like yourself, to stand up and not only pay lip service to the issue, but to actually put pen to paper and say, hey, I will co-sponsor and vote for this thing when elected. So that just sends a really strong signal to everybody out there. So, we really appreciate everything and you're signing that pledge and getting behind the movement. We appreciate that and we need it. So thank you very much. Do you have a couple closing comments?
Well, it looks like there was only 2 of us that signed this pledge, and out of 5, and those other 3 who call themselves Republicans are missing a tenet of the Republican Party platform. And like I said, I'm a platform Republican. I believe in it the way it's written. There's other issues in there too that some people are campaigning on that are contrary to the Republican Party platform. So I ask for everyone's vote. Voting is actually going on right now here in Kentucky. You can go in person, I think, starting next week without an appointment, or your mail-in ballot. So just vote for me June 23rd or before.
All right. Well, Calen Studler, thank you so much for your time. And we appreciate you for signing the pledge.
All right. Thank you.